Hey there, Goran Rista here. I've been entrusted with creating content for BeatBuddy, one-of-a-kind guitar pedal drum machine. This process is going to consist of several stages, and today we're going to look at the first stage, which is recording of the actual drum samples. We are here at Groove's recording studio, state-of-the-art facility created mainly for drum tracking purposes. I'm going to be doing all the recording here, sampling different drum sets, and also doing all of the content creation in a way of MIDI loops, MIDI beats, and drum fills. BeatBuddy is a world's first guitar pedal drum machine. It enables you to plug your guitar into the pedal and then go straight into your amp or PA and add beats to your playing. It consists of MIDI sequencer and sample libraries. What is drum sampling? Drum sampling is basically recording of a drum being played at various dynamic levels or velocities. And then that recording is later being processed, and each individual note then is being cut up into individual samples. Now you may ask, why do we need to record at different velocities, at different dynamic levels? Drum, like all the other instrument, is specific in the way it sounds when it's hit lightly as opposed to when it's hit hard. When it's hit lightly, you're gonna get a lot of overtones, not much attack. And then as you're playing it harder, the drums start to sing more, you get more of a fundamental tone, and you get more attack. So in order for drum to sound natural when played back on a drum machine, it needs to have all of those levels sampled. So when a quiet note is triggered, it's not just like just one note that's being just turned down in volume. It's actually a sample, a drum that was played lightly that's been triggered. That makes a difference between drum machine sounding robotic and sounding more organic and natural. How do we achieve great sounding drum samples or great sounding drum recording? There are several elements, important elements, that play a big role in the final outcome of what our drums are going to sound like. The most important is the actual sound of the drums, the way they sound acoustically in a room. Drums have to sound great on their own, so they have to be tuned really well, perfectly tuned, really. And the room has to be well treated for the drums, and of course microphones, preamps, and everything else. Every component plays an important role, but the most important is the actual sound of the acoustic drums that are being recorded. So what are some challenges that I've been faced with and that any drummer is faced with when creating a drum sample library? Mainly it's tuning of the drums, and I'll explain why tuning of drums is extremely challenging. If you have an instrument like a guitar, pretty much anybody can tune it with a tuner. You hit an A, and the tuner will tell you exactly, if you're sharp or flat, and it's easy to tune because you have a strong fundamental note. With the drums, it's a lot more complicated. Drum is, if not the most complicated, then certainly one of the most complicated instruments to tune. And I'll explain. You see, most of the drums have two drum heads, bottom and top. And each one of these heads can be tuned to a different pitch. Now, there's no set way at which, what pitch each one of these heads has to be tuned to. And depending on their relationship, they will give different results. Whether this head is tuned the same as the bottom head, or if both heads are very tight or very loose, somewhere in the middle. There's many different ways to tune it, and it's really preference of the drummer that's tuning the drum, how they would like to tune it. Also, the shell will play a role. What kind of shell, how thick it is, how what's the size of the shell, the width and the depth. And when it comes to tuning of the drums, as opposed to, you have a guitar or on the instrument, you have one point to tune a string, for example. On the drums, you have several points, you have several tension rods, and each one of these points have to be evenly tuned for this drum head to, vibrate in unity, with everything else. And but the most challenging part of actually tuning each one of these legs is that, unlike most instruments where you get a strong fundamental tone and you can tell what note it is, on drums you get many overtones, which can be actually much louder than the fundamental note. So a lot of times it's very, very difficult to hear a fundamental note as the overtones are kind of, overtaking. Even so that even, tuners get confused. They cannot tell sometimes, they jump different octaves and different pitches, when you hit on the same spot, they will jump up and down, having troubles figuring out, what pitch it is. So it can be very, very frustrating at times, and very challenging to get head to be perfectly in tune. To get a whole kit to sound really good, it's a fair amount of work. Well, thank you for watching. I certainly hope that you enjoyed this little presentation on drum sampling for the BeatBuddy. We're gonna have more videos coming up, so make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until then, keep it grooving.